TT Stills manages to run ahead, finding himself into the rafters of the longhouse. Yep, up here in the up here in the rafters. He's in the rafters. A demon from before time came out of the longhouse, and these guys move forward as well. And we go to this, and then Foxy moves into position, and Helm joins the battle. Man, this is awesome. I should totally record all this crap. Greetings, programs. Hanker and Fernale here, your old buddy. Welcome back to another episode of Drunkens and Dragons. How to play D&D like a big old badass. And by D&D, I mean all of it. I mean TTRPGs. D&D is just a generic term that means all the cool games y'all playing and that you're experimenting with. Anyway, what am I talking about? Wow, I know I have not been on the stinking internet for 1 month. Approximately 1 month I have been off of the internet. I was on a quest of self-discovery. What I found was terrifying. We're going to get back into the swing of things, and we're going to get all the way back into the swing of things. So this is a video, perhaps not what you expected, although this is an encounter which was designed... Well, I get ahead of myself. This is the first piece of gameplay that has been built somewhere besides the Drunkens and Dragons YouTube channel for another purpose. And that other purpose is none other than the purpose of this video, which is the Runehammer Patreon page. So before I say anything more, let me really quickly show you the teaser trailer, or the little welcome to trailer for the Runehammer Patreon. Roll that beautiful bean footage. Greetings, programs. This is Brandish Gilhelm. Welcome to the Runehammer Patreon page. This has been a long time coming, and I'm very excited about it. Everything that I've been working on, be it room designs for Dungeons & Dragons, the latest adventure for my group, even short stories on Facebook, have all culminated toward this one idea. I'll be writing and performing short stories, character backgrounds, and of course, chapters from my novels, all for your download and listening pleasure. It's always been, for me, about writing from the beginning. As a hobbyist and as a reader myself, nothing captures my imagination quite like a good story. If you can throw a few bucks into the skull and join me on this journey, I would be ever thankful. And as we grow and more patrons arrive, I can upgrade my equipment, write more and more stories, and most of all, dedicate more time to the art of storytelling. This is Brandish Gilhelm, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so that's the little video that you and others will see when you go to the Patreon page for the first time and consider helping me out with a few ducats to keep more stories going. So I just wanted to take time and make a quick video, not only to say, hey, I'm back. I've been on the road for more than 3 weeks, and then I had a few days to recover, and now I've had some work to catch up on, and finally kind of getting back into the swing of feeling a little more normal. Getting ready to do some hacked up gameplay on Blades in the Dark. That's exciting. I've got a book review coming for Torchbearer. We've got a couple other surprises, which I just want to be surprises, which I won't talk about. And also next week, I am interviewing John Harper live. He is the author of Blades in the Dark. And I'm going to start trying this. I'm going to start branching out a little bit and talking to more creators out there and broadening my horizons. One thing that I've been feeling here at the sort of almost 3-year mark, coming up pretty soon, is that just WotC D&D, straight out of the box. I mean, we were hacking it right from the beginning, but now that it's been a few years, a few of my groups have come and gone. Gen Con has come and gone. A lot of new games have come out. I think the scope of what Drunkens and Dragons is, and even wider what Runehammer is growing and expanding. And I want to embrace that with the channel, but I also want to stay true to all the classics that brought you guys here in the first place, namely designing encounters this way, in full color, in full 3D, and why they can inspire what you're doing at your table and how the creative process comes together to make this junk. So in this particular case, and why am I talking about Patreon? Well, Patreon is where this encounter was born. So I wanted to do a free story for Patreon. As you saw, they're audio stories that you can listen to on your commute or on the bus or whatever. Well, I guess the bus would be a commute. Audio stories, and I wrote one that was a continuation of the Rangers of Nemedia campaign, right? And it's a great little story. I really enjoy it. It's called The Talking Head. So go over and check that out. That's for free on the Patreon page to kind of welcome you into the fold. The interesting thing about that is that I have been hung up on campaign encounters, on continuing that series for months. Not quite sure where it was going to go. Maybe just didn't have quite the inspiration to pull it together. It just basically wasn't happening for whatever reason. But when I sat down just, with my laptop and just saying, hey, just write a story about what happens next, it just flowed right out. The mechanic that I planned for that encounter, which is the one right here on this board, which basically involves destroying this talking head to defeat the enemies. So the enemies are actually undefeatable until you destroy this little talking head. That mechanic I knew for the last several months, but I hesitated on making the video for campaign encounters. And I started asking myself why that was, and I wanted to change and grow my creative process. So when I don't have a really clear idea of how to do an encounter video, it might take the form of a story, and the stories then might find their way into a video or even a crafting project. And so not only do I want to share that process with you guys and show you this writing side, because you guys know me, it's all about writing. As I said in the little trailer, writing is the origin of all the stuff that I do. And sometimes you can more directly get that satisfaction, that creative release from just writing the story rather than creating a board, creating an encounter, getting your players together, playing through it, okay, moving forward with the campaign. All right, that's really cool too, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of stories happening. There's a lot of threads of story that are happening. Over the past year, just because of luck and the grace of Odin, I've become involved in so many little threads of storytelling in different people's campaigns, in Index Card RPG, in all this sort of stuff, all the campaign encounters series, the Moloch stuff, and Warp Shell, getting into science fiction, and now like the Weird West stuff is going to be coming out soon. There's so many threads, I can't just craft 1 million boards and make 1 million encounters and run 20 groups a week. And it's just too much momentum to contain in one way. So I wanted to make a new outlet. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part of why I made the Patreon page, and I've been trying to figure out a way to do Patreon for more than a year now in a way that I felt it was meaningful. And this is the beginning. As you guys know, early this spring, I decided to go whole hog both on publishing books, writing novels, and doing, online RPG life as my livelihood. And I've had a lot of successes so far, but also the future is never certain when you're doing this. And not in a bad way, but it's real. I mean, it's right there. To be totally brutally honest, Patreon is the best way that I see to try to turn this boat around to where it becomes sustainable for me. So if in the meantime you guys can jump over and maybe even just go in at the lowest patron level, that would be awesome. But what I would dream of is actually eventually, maybe the Patreon page works out so great, this entire video culture that we do could move over there. That's sort of where I'm headed. As you guys probably know, really there is no livelihood in YouTube at our level, at this scale. I mean, you really need to reach very large scale for ad revenue to really become awesome. And honestly, I don't want to use the time and effort to do some of these other cool techniques that people are doing, like affiliates and Amazon and other things. That all my effort goes into creative work. Writing, designing encounters, building, collecting, learning new books, and then reviewing them and stuff like that. And that's where I want to stay focused. And if you agree with me on that front, and you want me to stay focused in that way, then hop on over, throw a few ducats in the skull, and become a patron, and listen to the stories. Now, the stories are going to be a mixture of things. Just as I sort of mentioned briefly and is mentioned on Patreon, they're going to be straight out of all of our D&D stuff. So Moloch and the Black Ocean, Rangers of Nemedia, and actually I would hope to open up some new threads of campaigns that could come to you through audio stories. I think in a lot of ways these are easier for people to absorb in great detail and great specificity. You know, it's easier to listen your way through half an hour than it is to read 20 pages of text. Just because of the way life is nowadays. And Patreon delivers these audio stories in an easy to kind of use, listen to, and download format. And bada bing, there you've got, to me, what's a much, much more technically viable way of doing something like Audible. Audible is really cool for audiobooks, but there are quite a few technical barriers, and it's very specific in how it's all done, and you wind up using time on that. And that, I guess, is my point. Patreon is simple enough, especially if I keep it simple, where I can keep myself focused on doing what I love doing most, which is working with all of you guys directly to make your campaign cooler and to make my campaigns cooler and my games cooler and to expand and try new games with new groups, which I think is a little more going to be the tone of the coming year. I want to see where new games and crafting and new tables and playing online all begin to crisscross, and what is this whole lifestyle and what does it really funnel into, which for me is writing. It really, everything I do in RPGs is in a way funnels into a big idea machine for writing. Really, it's my sort of first true love. It's kind of one of the things I did actually long before I got into art or anything. I was always dreaming of writing stories and books. And that is where it's all headed for me. So I hope to someday be offering you guys better and better books, both RPG books and novels, that just become cooler and cooler over time. And how do we do that? We work together as a community. We delve into places we didn't see coming, which is where players come into play, right? You can't just do this out of your own head. That's the magic of an RPG. So that's most of what I wanted to say, guys, was I wanted to kind of gently glide you or guide you or glide you over to the Patreon page. Check it out. At the very least, tell me what you think, but give that free story a listen about Rangers in Nemedia. All suggestions are welcome. I like everything, I am a perpetual beginner. So I mentioned some of the projects and videos you're going to see coming up. Those are going to be awesome. I also have some crafting projects that I am beginning to scratch my chin about that I know I want to do. I need more space. I need to somehow expand my room because it is just wall-to-wall stuff. And I hollow out one little area here so I can sit and talk to you. It's crazy. So I need to do that. So there's a lot of work to do, and I think Gen Con gave me that chapter. It was a turning of the page, and that's going to come up too. I'd like to do a full sort of Gen Con breakdown for you. Should you go? Is it fun? Did I get the answers that I went on this great quest to go get? And you deserve to know what happened to old Hanker and Fernale at Gen Con. And hopefully it'll inform you if you're deciding to go next year, because it is a bit of an investment, especially in time. And is it a cool thing to do for a weird, lumpy-headed, crazy person like yourself? So that's about it. Please go check out my Patreon page and ever upward and onward, and expect these cool videos. The surprise one is sitting right over there, but you can't see it because you're inside of a little box. Also, peace, safety, and well-being to all my peeps down in the flood zone, down in Houston. Take care, you guys. And anybody out there watching, if you can throw a few bucks in the flood relief fund, please do that, because all those people are digging out of a hole, and they're having a hell of a time down there, and God bless them. And everyone around the world, hang in there, be good to your neighbor, and that way you can save her. I don't know, that's not a very cool. Stay tuned, guys, and we are going to get back in the rhythm of putting out some dope-ass videos, how to play D&D like a big old badass, and maybe drink a bunch of beers in the process. So I'll see you on the internet. Strength.